All right, I think we are live.
Hello.
One step at a time. Hey, at least we're here now. Hopefully, I will be
Yep, we are live.
All right, so can you hear me? Happy, like we're doing all the checks right now real quick.
Yeah, I could hear you.
Awesome. Right. Let's see. All right.
I'm just gonna mute the stream so this doesn't confuse me anymore.
Yes, probably a good idea. All right, are we ready for the intro?
I'm ready.
All right, great. Thank you for coming. Let's start that over. Welcome to the Spoken Word with Raz. I'm your host, Raz. With me is the Queen of Cunts herself, Morgan Boytits Lily.
What up?
And my best friend and dog, Happy.
Good evening, people.
Oh, how are you guys today?
I'm well. I'm all good.
I'm surprisingly well. For a change of pace, the day was neither too hot nor too cold.
Well,
yeah,
Because the weather over here has been absolutely screwy.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
We were having temperatures of. Hold on, I need to change this.
You can use both temperatures.
Yeah, 34 Celsius. So it's 93, 94 Fahrenheit. About 3 days ago. Now it's down to a lovely 80.
Oh, what about you, Morgan? How's the weather been?
The weather has been exceptionally hot for UK standards, and being British, we are totally unprepared for just about anything that comes our way weather-wise, other than rain. So yeah, we are sat here with no air conditioning and sweating it out. I wouldn't say it's even reached 30 degrees centigrade, which I don't know what that translates to in what you call freedom units. What does it translate to? Sorry, I've got my attractive assistant here with me. What does it translate to? 30 degrees. What does the temperature translate to in freedom units, in American units?
30? 86.
Yeah. But it doesn't feel like that in England. It feels like 500 million degrees.
Right.
Because we're just so unbelievably ill prepared for it.
Well, throw in the fact that you're also smoggy, and because of all the rain you get, that's just humidity everywhere.
Yeah, it's fun. So we've been really enjoying it. I've been putting bug mesh up on the windows today to keep all the delicious bugs out of my house because I can't be dealing with them anymore. It's been fun.
Oh, that's cool. As for me, the weather has I'm pretty sure we've been importing rain from England.
You're welcome.
But we're on a nice 85, partly sunny.
Nice.
No, it's still hot. It's hot as hell.
It's just hot everywhere, hot as hell. Milk was a bad choice today on all fronts.
85 is what I'd consider on the upper limit of okay. It's not good, but it's on the upper limit of okay.
Right. Well, you throw in the fact that we have a lake, and you can see why it sucks.
Yeah.
I live right next to a
I
fucking
live on
river, and the city I go to has a huge river going through it.
Right.
I live on
I
old
know.
moorland, so everywhere I basically live on what used to be a swamp.
Nice.
Now that's misery.
Yes. Welcome to the UK.
Oh. Well, we haven't actually got a proper introduction for Happy with everything working now. So, Happy, why don't you introduce yourself?
How would I introduce myself?
I don't know. Maybe give some background.
Some background.
Talk how
I'm
we
just
know. Talk how we know each other. I don't know. Make a decision.
yeah. That's
Love
basically
you.
how we work.
Love you.
Yeah, that's basically how we work. So no lies detected. But yeah, I'm just a Portuguese guy trying to get into IT, and I'm way too old for today's internet. Too old for this shit.
God, we both are. Actually,
Yeah, I
probably
am.
all three of us.
I basically go on Twitter to look at it for 2 seconds and be depressed at humanity.
See, you made the mistake of going to Twitter.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh no, I go on purpose.
I know. Still a mistake.
Yeah.
I like that you go for self-exposure to these things. You know that you need to harden yourself up to the evils of the world, and Twitter is a good place to start, I suppose.
Oh, I'm very much thick-skinned. I just go to Twitter to give it a booster shot.
I mean, like I said, for the longest time he was a happy, he's happy dog. He's that guy. Like he can just run into the door over and over and over again, and he'll be fine.
Don't mention that, because I have actually done something like that once.
Just ordering multiple packages on Amazon like hours apart, so that you've got a reason to run to the door every hour or so.
Right. Um. Oh man. So, anyways, oh, looks like looks like NT is in here.
Oh, hey, bud.
But yeah. So what? So as we have decided, just to give a little bit of the format, so what do you have? What do you have today, Morgan, that you want to talk about?
Well, I was going to sort of spring it on you a little bit more so, basing off of what we sort of touched on last time, because we sort of touched on a little bit of why you wanted to get into podcasting in the first place and what sort of inspired you to do this. And I just thought maybe it would be worth you telling us a little bit about the journey that you've been on, not necessarily how you got to the starting point, but where you started from and what you've done to get yourself there. And then I was going to sort of move on from that once, because I anticipate some of the things that you are going to say. So, yeah, I think it would just be worthwhile for people knowing sort of where you're coming from, so that they can get an understanding of what you've got on offer.
Okay, that's fair. So starting point being what?
At the point when you realised you wanted to build yourself back up. Because you, when we've discussed before, you've said that you went to a point, you got to a point where you broke yourself all the way down. And I know that you've said that you don't necessarily think everyone needs to do what you did. But I think it would be worth knowing the sort of process that you went through to get to where you are now, which then is stepping stone lets you know, can let you know, give you an opportunity to say what it is that you think you can offer, what you offer other people.
Okay. Well, luckily we have Happy here, if he's able to actually answer, but, I could go on about what I was, but, he was actually there during the event where I decided to do that. So I think it's a little better if Happy, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of explaining to Morgan and people who are gonna be listening, uh, what I was like, what has it been, 4.5 years ago?
Uh, I mean, I met you in
2015.
2014,
2014, yeah.
so
Yeah, you meet me in 2014.
7 years, close
Yeah,
to.
yep. Not only that, you met me right at the point that I broke as a person.
Well, like slightly before, I could still see you fall down a few flights of stairs.
That's fair.
But yeah, from my point of view, I basically saw a guy that had a very stereotypically mediocre marriage at the start.
Mediocre. Mediocre. That's what we're going with.
Mediocre.
That's what we're going.
Well, that was my opinion at the time.
That's fair. What
And
what is
then
your opinion?
my opinion now?
Yeah.
Uh, I might actually wish that sort of marriage on my hated opponents.
Right. But we'll talk
That
more about that later. But more of like what was I like on who was I at the time though is more of the question. Like how did I act and what was I what do you remember me thinking like
uh well, as far as handling me, you were still are nice guy asshole.
okay.
That's your standard. But the way you handled your relationships was a lot different.
Uh
I would basically put it as you. I'm not entirely sure if you, when I first met you, if you even cared that hard about your relationship with your wife.
oh no, I'm at that moment like it was a fully broken down.
Yeah, it kind of felt like you were living together, but you weren't living together.
Right. Yeah. Um
Which,
we just had my youngest that year too. But that first year was also the end of the year is when I had the boys taken from me. So
Yeah.
and that's what broke me. That's what finally broke me. So
Yep, I remember that time.
yeah.
I I think I didn't hear from you for like 3 months, give or take.
Uh about the middle of 2015, yeah. Cause we were playing Warframe. If you remember, I was just playing Warframe. That's when we met Flap and all them.
Yeah,
Point.
but
Well, because remember, I was playing Warframe because it was something to do. Well, I didn't care about
yeah,
anything. I didn't
yeah,
have.
that's what I was going to say. It felt like you were there, but you weren't there. Like you were
Uh,
just going through the motions. That's what
I
I
would.
mean when you weren't. We didn't have a moment together actually for like some 3-ish months.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the point where my old group had finally ostracized me, where I was just done with everybody because I stopped talking to everyone around that point. I used to actually fly off the handle in anger and stuff like that. Like, everything could bother me. Or I didn't act like I cared about anything. And Happy can tell you how good of an actor I could act like I was perfectly okay at times.
It's
Like I said,
certainly a skill.
oh yeah.
Yeah, you tried.
Just because I appreciate you and spent time and let you get to know me doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, you'd say that. You don't mean it, but you'd say that.
Right.
Uh,
Yes, Morgan. Any questions?
No, well, obviously those are all horrendous things to have happened, and I know that it took you to a really dark place, which led you to, like, well, in your words, you were playing Warframe because it was something to do, and you were existing. So it was like, so you reached this point. You reached this point where, who were you when you got to that point? Who was Raz at that point in time?
I wasn't anybody at that point in time. That's the reality of it. Is like I didn't. I think the only reason Happy even really knew much about me at that point is because we met in 2014, before I fully broke. And like, I would drag him to play Warframe and stuff like that, but as for a personality, I didn't really have one. I was a miserable person. Like, it took a lot. Oh, go ahead.
No, carry on, as you are.
Like he'll tell you, I would flake out all the time too, or I would just disappear at times. Because I couldn't deal with people. And for about, like you said, I want to say that between the end of 2015 to sometime in 2016, me and him completely stopped talking. Because I just stopped hanging out with everybody. Eventually, I just messaged him again, and our friendship took off immediately like that. This was still the last year before, and that year was right before I actually started making all the changes in my life to be different. Out of the 3 friends that I have that remember me from this time period, I think Happy and another friend of mine saw me at the deepest, darkest part of myself at that point. Because I think the worst thing I try to do is when I try to ruin all my friendships.
Oh, he tried. And I just stood there and watched him.
Yeah, self-sabotage is effective, provided you've got friends that are willing to allow you to do it.
Right. It was a lot more effective than you think. It's just, I was not expecting Happy to stick around, or anyone, because of, that's the whole thing is, depression and self-hatred is just like any other drug. It's mind-altering in all the wrong ways. You think things that, a lot of times you think things you don't even believe. You create this is where the whole thing of the lie, the whole I believe 90% of the time people lie to me because it's the stuff they don't say versus the things they do. Because you can tell, but another problem that I have is you can tell a lie that you 100% believe. And that's really what it's like when you're depressed.
Yep.
Yeah. You can almost get to a point where you crave that moment of sadness. I remember going through moments of depression, going like, oh, I haven't felt really sad in like 3 days now, and being like, oh, I almost miss it. You know, and it being a withdrawal thing from your own misery. Like you become so comfortable in your own misery that moving on from it is almost like, oh, I left my blanket behind.
I actually have a real thing. This really happened where, I'll get to where I started, but the year about what do you want to say, Happy? 6 months, a year after I started this thing, and one day I just wasn't depressed, and I literally thought
Yeah.
something was wrong with me. I came to him explaining that there's something wrong with me, and he started laughing at me.
Well, when isn't something wrong with you?
Now, hold on a moment. Just because that's true does not mean that we have to talk about that now.
You know me. I'm more than willing to stab you.
That's true. See, Morgan, do you see what type of friends I keep around me now? My girlfriend wants to stab me.
Yeah, no, I've got.
I can't stab you. I need to bite you.
You're saying, Morgan?
See, there's a certain amount I can respect in violence between friends.
Well, there's always that joke that men can be perfectly willing to beat each other up in a moment and then go straight into a crate of beer and be fine right after.
I didn't think that was a joke. I thought that was a fact.
It is. It is perfectly a fact.
Yeah.
We men settle their differences with fists and then they're fine doing stuff together. I don't know why, and it is occasionally relatively creepy.
Right. Oh. The bromance is so strong is all. But yeah, like I said, but it was weird. I won't lie, it was weird not being depressed anymore, because when you're stuck with it, and when you were so addicted to your misery as much as I was, and even after I was getting better, something that is kind of hard to understand is that I still kept a bit of misery with me at all times, because even if I was happy and everything like that, it kept me grounded. That was very important to me, was to keep being grounded. And
I do think that's a skill that everyone needs to learn, though, is to stay a little bit grounded, because it's easy to get lost in yourself.
Oh yeah. Well, I especially at that time, I was in a very I was very influx. I was very unstable, so I had a lot of highs and lows that were extremes at all times. And because of that, if I was too high of extremes on good, this would make me get a big head or anything like that. Like, you can ask him. Sometimes it'd be like, I'm the most awesome person ever, and the next day is, I fucking hate everybody and myself, and yeah.
Yeah, that's like listing off days of the week for me. Yeah, on Monday I like the world, and I'm a happy-go-lucky little chipper person running around, skipping about. And on Tuesday, I'm going to be grumpy all day about one thing. And on Wednesday, I'm going to be ever so slightly productive, but I'm going to be violent.
The fact that you have a schedule bothers me more.
There is no schedule. It's a multifaceted bed. Like when you say you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, like the bed that I wake up on is multi-dimensional, multifaceted. Yeah, who knows what psychopathic personality you're going to get each day. Who knows?
Yeah. So I guess so going on now, you have like some details of what I was like from that period.
Yes. So then, what was the point? What what was the point when you started pulling yourself out of it? What triggered it? Was it just a case that, like you say, you just woke up one day and it was over? And how did you get that there?
Well, the first major event that happened is my ex-wife finally left me and filed for divorce. That was a big event because the reality is that there was not only no emotions left, she was really holding me back. And her leaving was probably the happiest day of my life at the time. Not joking. Like, that made a major difference.
Yeah, he was pretty miserable as long as she was around.
Yep. So as soon as she left, the first major thing is I immediately went back to work. I hadn't been working at the time. I borrowed money from a friend, went and bought some new clothes, some work boots and stuff like that. I started working at a charcoal factory. While working there, I got an offer from my best friend at the time to move to Iowa, which is a huge thing. Gonna throw this off just for a moment of levity from NT. Someone let Morgan know that her multi-dimensional bed of psychotic is called being female.
Every time.
But anyways, that was a big change, was moving to Iowa and working for this flooring company with my friend. We got our own place together. And I was kind of already in the midst of changing. And what ended up ultimately was, even though I was there, even though I was finally doing a job, I was working hard, I finally, was making some pretty good money, had my own place, I was still miserable. And I don't remember exactly any specific event because I don't think that there's like, everyone talks about it, but I don't think for most people that there's just a single event that makes you change your life.
No.
I think it was just
Not
such a
normally.
build-up. Yeah. I think it was just such a general build-up that one day, I was sitting there and I'm pretty sure I was either talking to Happy or somebody else, and I was just like, fuck it, I'm done. I'm gonna rethink a lot of these things. And what I started thinking about was, well, the first thing that I chose to do, and just this really weird thing, is I was just gonna be selfish, that I can't do anything for anyone else. I can't change for anyone else but myself. And it was very simple of, if I wanted to be there for my kids, I needed to be able to take care of myself. I needed to take care of the things I needed to do. Because how am I expected to take care of them if I can't?
Yeah.
And that's the reality I came to. And again, I've had less pushback than I think on this specific thing, but yeah, no, my kids or anyone else, even now, even though I still love my kids, I won't do anything that I don't want to do.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. People tend to forget that in your life, you have to be, how do I put it? You have to be pleased with yourself before you start worrying about other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but that selfishness hasn't even ended now. Is my point was that I cannot live for I cannot live for anyone else but myself. If I choose to do things for my kids or be in my kids' life, that is my choice. That is something I'm doing. And yes, that is very selfish. That's very arrogant. But I don't think I've said this multiple times. The 1 second. Trying to think of the phrasing I use. Wow, why do I always do this? The results speak for themselves. There we go.
Mm,
Well, all I'm going to say is I disagree on it being arrogant, but carry on.
I don't know. I can be pretty arrogant when I want to be.
No, I mean your decision.
Oh,
Like,
right.
doing things for yourself isn't arrogant. It's just basic.
Right.
There's a good reason there's the phrase "you do you."
Right. But yeah, just really the change to start getting better started with just that, with just the simple aspect of not worrying about everything else and everything else around me, about focusing on working and doing basic things like, again, where I was at the time, taking a shower, eating correctly, making sure I was on work at on time. Those for me were my wins. Those were the little wins I could do. Didn't matter if I messed up any otherwhere else in the day. And even if I messed up, I just tried again. Again, there is a thing to be said about putting, even if it's not a lot of effort, just doing the action. No matter how many times you fail at it.
yeah.
And I struggled with that a lot. Um,
So, out of curiosity, how do you get around it?
I You're not gonna like the answer. You just do it. That's it. You just do it.
Yeah.
You tell yourself every day. Okay, so think of it this way. The reason that I had these little wins, like taking a shower and stuff like that, is I stopped worrying about the big end goals, and I started doing little goals, and those little wins would build up to the big win. The little wins actually are more important than the final result. And so this is how I put it. The first step is just getting out of bed. You might get out of bed and go back to bed immediately, but you get that's the first step. The next day you might take a step, 2 steps, then you go back to bed. But every day, if you keep going further and further and further, it'll get easier and easier and easier. And eventually you'll be out the door and slaying dragons. You know? That doesn't mean you can't return to that point that you were before, but it's going to get a lot harder. And it's the same way of what I found that's fascinating is it's a lot harder to go back to how you were. So let's say, so before then you become depressed and then you do less and less and less and less. Well, it's the same way. Once you have the right mindset and you do, it's really hard to go back to that doing nothing or go back to that old way, even if some things return that way, especially if you're fighting it.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
right, NT has the first step is deciding you are going to take a step. Yep, pretty much. And sticking to, like I said, sticking to it. So that was the first change, was just taking care of myself, working. My goal was not, I want to point out, my goal was never to fix myself, like where I am now. My goal wasn't to help others. My goal was just very simple of, I have things I want to do. And I'm going to do them.
Yep.
The next step came with the fact that even after that step, I was still super depressed. I was getting into arguments with people. I still would spend, even at this point where I'm working, I have money, I would commonly just sit in my room and do nothing, or I might hang out with my friend but we barely, even though we were roommates, we saw each other, we worked together, and then we barely interacted outside of work, except for like a couple of times a week where we would have dinner together or we'd hang out and play a video game. You know? Which, by the way, was a great roommate. We never bothered each other.
It's the dream.
Well, the best relationship you can have with a person is when both people know how to stay in their lane.
Right. Don't get me wrong. We would still go out of each other's way to talk to. We always hung out like 2 or 3 times a week. But yeah.
No, it's. I mean, you're driving on the same road, but each person has their lane.
Right. Oh, I get it. Yep. And
I think that's basically the ideal relationship in multiple facets.
Oh yeah.
If you're going to get married, you might do your best to get married to somebody who's with you, but not on you.
Right.
Like, people need their private space.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of relationships nowadays, people just think it's all that gooey, dumb shit where people have to do everything together. Like,
right.
No, I actually think my parents had exactly this kind of relationship. If they were both did things on their own time, and sometimes my mother or my father would just walk up to each other and just say, "Hey, you want to go have dinner on that place, or go do this, or go do that?" And it's either yes or no. If it's a yes, then they'd go do shit, and if it's a no, then they'd go do some other stuff.
Right.
It's like,
did we lose
enjoy
you?
each other's company and just enjoy some alone time.
Well, obviously.
It's almost ironically wonderful, like how simply cliche life is when you actually like reduce things down into like you said, Raz, just get out and do it. Like, and the secret is to just be able to just stay in your own lane. And you can reduce it down to this, and it's so simple, and yet the average person just overthinks it.
Well, staying in your own lane is one way of doing it, but life is way more complicated than just staying in your own lane, because you can't always stay in your own lane. If anything, I am like the ultimate meddler. We all know this. Everyone knows this. But I also know but I think it's more of not just like figuring out what's the best things for the situation you're in. I agree with him on like the alone time and stuff like that. Like, me and Ashley do a lot of things together. But we do try to spend time apart and everything like that, because how I've always put it for relationships, if you want the best relationship, it's 2 people who are working together to make the relationship work by taking their own personal responsibilities to do in that relationship. That you have your own things, that you have your we don't have to be friends with with all of each other's friends. We don't, but we don't have to do everything together. We can do our own things. But me and Ashley, though, have a really great relationship where we do like doing a lot of things, like here, like she, when she's available, she's going to be here on the podcast.
Yeah.
We have a very weird relationship, though, if you haven't noticed.
Yeah, is she going to be here next week, or is she?
I have no idea.
We're just hoping and doing sun dances and making sacrifices and things like that, in the hope that the shift managers will essentially give her the night off. Yeah,
pretty much. I think she wants to keep the the day, keep the days right now though, because she wants us to go visit her mom in a couple weeks, so we might keep it on this one because there's like something they want to go do. So, I'm gonna have to drive hours, but that's fine. But yeah, we'll eventually get her on here because I definitely want Ash to be here. So, because she's
Yeah,
fantastic.
she'll get here eventually. She'll turn up in her own time, fashionably late, as they say.
But oh, absolutely. But yeah, so let me think here. So getting
Well,
back to
we'll
it,
see. She's like a cat.
that's fair. Well, you all are like cats. I swear, right?
Mm,
Yes, you are a dog, but you are a dog cat. You were a dog cat. Or cat dog. That's what the show is called.
So yeah, I was literally all I could hear was the cat dog theme tune in the back of my head. Then,
Right? Oh,
that was a great show, to be honest.
that was a great show.
well, it was a fantastic show.
Have you ever had that moment as an adult, though, that you realize that you're more like the Angry Beavers?
I can't say that's a thought that's ever crossed my mind, actually.
Go back
but
and watch that show.
Go back and watch that show. Think I can understand it a little bit, yeah. I did say the other day, is a comment that has been thrown around the house multiple times in the last 3 weeks, is that the older I get, the more I empathise with Marge Simpson, because it is surprising how many times in the last month I have just made the noise and been I was thinking, I don't know the point when I changed from Lisa Simpson to Marge Simpson, but it definitely happened.
Right. I've always wondered how many people relate to Homer as guys.
Well, I was always shocked when he got Father of the Year, didn't he? About 10 years ago now. Homer Simpson won Father of the Year in the States.
I think so, yeah. Something like that. Like,
and that just absolutely blew my mind, because I was like, I mean, you know, child abuse to a certain extent is acceptable. Like, we've all wanted to throttle our kids from time to time. I don't know that he quite qualifies as Father of the Year, though.
no, I don't think so either. But really, if you watch the show, like, he really does care about his kids and stuff like that.
And this was all the arguments that were made. Like, he goes above and beyond. He always goes to work. Like, he always comes through for his kids, even though he messes up. And he's more realistic a depiction of a father than most people on the television. I understood the arguments, and I was still like, okay.
Right. But the strangling of Bart and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just think that I'm sure that there is like a single father to like 5 kids who's raising children in all sorts of situations somewhere that's going, I'm so glad my Homer Simpson won it.
Yeah.
I just think that sometimes these ceremonies, they're put out there, like something like that is definitely put out there to really acknowledge people who go above and beyond. And struggle and deserve just a little bit of recognition, just a pat on the shoulder to let them know that they're doing a good job. So giving it to a cartoon character, I think, is somewhat tongue-in-cheek and a little bit too far.
Oh, I agree. I mean, do we even want to get into the whole... I'm not going to do that. We're not going to...
No, let's not. We're not going to go down that route. We're not going to go down that route. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
See, I tangent a lot. Happy. This is my problem. I've got to try and stay on track.
Well, all I can say is that if I had to be the one picking, then people would be really mad.
The funny thing is I have a big thing for I've always had a thing for. I don't know if it's just my own insecurities and stuff like that in the past, or I love my kids and everything, even with all the mistakes. But I've always had a thing for like the father storyline. Like, I really like redemption stories, but I also like shows and movies and stuff like that deals with the father dynamic especially for guys who go through hell or do the things they need to do, even if it's not always the best, or easiest things. Like, I won't even lie. Oh, Father of the Year. Yeah, we're not gonna get into that in G. But
It's all right. There's no one's winning Mother of the Year prizes over here either. Like, don't worry.
Oh, well, that was what he's saying. Marge getting the Father of the Year, because of how they've been doing things, and
All right, yeah. All right, yeah. That is a tangent we're not going down today. Anyway, back to the point at hand.
Right. So, anyways, going back to what I was talking about before, anyways, I was still miserable, and I think, okay, so the honest truth is, I think what finally, I know I had already become very, I started talking a lot about myself. I became obsessed with my problems. I did. I became obsessed with my problems, what was wrong with me, and dissecting everything. That was a very difficult time, honestly, for a lot of people around me, because anytime Happy would talk to me or anyone, it was just about my problems, what to fix. And I call it becoming a narcissist, basically. That my problems became more important than anything else in my life, and those around me. I don't know how Happy saw it, but I'll let him speak on that part, because it took me a few years to stop being that way.
I mean, the one thing that always comes to mind whenever we talk about your life is that it's never dull.
I think that's why you guys put up with me so much, is that it was just way too entertaining.
I can't disagree.
You see, Morgan, what I have to put up with? I literally could be completely heartbreaking, and they're completely fast. They have popcorn.
I mean, I consistently live on the bridge you try to break down.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
You're just sitting there, just pickaxing the bridge, and I'm just watching you. It's like, yo.
No. Anyways, yeah. So I became infatuated with my problems, with everything that was wrong with me, because I needed to figure it out. Something was wrong in my head. That was just all there was to it. I got tired of people looking down at me or having pity or what have you. And so, and I think I watched a video. I don't know who talked about it. I don't know what video it was, but I'm pretty sure the reason that I did the whole shadow or did the whole thing of looking at all of my darkness and all that stuff and having an argument between the two sides of myself was because I think I saw a discussion on Carl Jung. That was it, just a discussion on it. Wasn't a it wasn't like I watched the whole dissertation or anything like that, just the concept of the shadow self. And I'm pretty sure I internalized it. really heavily when I saw that. And it tells you how badly how little I knew of what the discussion was, like that I only remember this part of it is I didn't even remember Carl Jung or anything about him until Brad mentioned him to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like I've had many times, many memories that just get sort of lost in there until like an event. Sometimes it's even like a smell or just something happening and something clicks back into memory and you suddenly go, oh yeah, I completely forgot about that. Oh, that was a really influential moment. I can't believe I forgot it.
Well, right. Well, that's what makes I think makes the most fascinating thing of what I did and everything like that is I might study a lot now, like I did a lot with obviously researching politics and everything like that. I forget more than I forget more than I remember on all of this. But a lot of my changes came from just picking up something, like the smallest bit of it, really thinking about what it means, using my own logic and everything like that, and then coming to my own conclusions. And then later I would read up on them to see how close I was to that, to what it actually meant.
Yeah.
Actually taking a little bit of control of your own critical thinking.
Yeah.
For a little bit. Yeah, not being told what to think all the time by everyone else, even about yourself. Actually taking the time to sort of sit down and do the research, which, let's face it, no one wants to do anymore, and do they? No one wants to do the backbone work. The sitting down and the analysing and the going through all the information, because that's what it takes.
Well, another problem I run into is people like to take things at face value versus what they and sometimes a saying can have multiple interpretations. You know?
But that's connotation and
Yeah.
denotation. It's the sort of it's science of signs. Like, it doesn't matter who you are in the world. Like,
Yeah.
depending on the culture you come from, the background you come from, you are going to read everything differently to the person next to you. It was what makes us so uniquely wonderful and different from everyone else on the planet, because your experiences are your own, so everyone's going to read something different. That's why music is brilliant. That's why I like music, because the same song means something different to 5 million people, you know.
Right.
It's powerful.
Exactly.
um
No, yeah, and this walks me into the biggest thing that I did. You asked me what was the point of the biggest change. Was just one day I sat down and I had a conversation. This is the part that I really needed. This is the whole part of the narcissism and stuff I really, really needed. Was Happy and the friends that are still around who were with me at the time. You know, I don't like calling them soundboards. They were just, I needed somebody there to not leave me alone with myself while I was doing this. And I would just have these very hard arguments with myself. Happy wouldn't even talk or give me any, any advice or his opinion or anything like that. He would just let me talk to myself for hours, by the way.
Yeah, it's a good idea not to argue too hard with somebody who tap dances on ice.
Fair, and leave my foot out of this. It's an
yeah.
asshole.
I mean, if you're asking, I can get a saw.
um, Phantom limb syndrome's still a thing.
Yeah,
So
punished
no.
Raz.
Punished Raz, yes. Um, but yeah, he would sit there and listen to me, and basically what I would do is what I had to do is I had to take everything everything I hate about it myself, all the negative, all the darkness, all everything like that, and I created a form of it, and it ended up just being another side of me, and then I took all of we'll say good, I'm quotating here on it, but like all the things that I do, being nice to people, all that stuff, right? And put it on the other, which is supposed to be my good side. And I would let them have arguments back and forth. I wanted to hear exactly what I thought of myself. And there's a lot of things I did not like about myself. A lot of things I did not like. A lot of hard truths I didn't like about myself. The fact of the matter is that all of my darkness, all of my self-hatred, all those things, the reason I was so effective at what I did, and this is the hard part. Like I said, I don't think the shadow stuff and all this is a negative, but what I did specifically is a problem with how I did things. Is you're supposed to take all the darkness and stuff like that and accept it and have acceptance, right? And then you're supposed to meld it into the rest of your personality, and you have convergence. That's the Carl Jung idea, right?
Right.
No, not me. I just I listened to everything I had, and the funniest part is the side of me that was the darkness and all that stuff. That was all really that is also where my personality was. That's where everything about me really was. I had buried everything about myself and used it to fuel my anger and hatred and everything. Good, bad, everything got shoved in there. I really was not a person at this point. Lucky for me, some of my actual personality came out, or I wouldn't have Happy here. He saw things, and certain people could see things in me but everyone else, like, I don't say this to be like, just be like, people did not, ask Happy, people did not like me. It was a very few number of people who would stick by and hang out with me.
Not wrong.
Yeah, look at you now.
Oh yeah, I'm aware. Now I'm sitting here in an already hour-long video talking to you guys.
There you go.
No, it made a big difference because, like I said, what I found why I took on all of my negative is I dealt away with that part of me that was weak and did all those things, and I completely took on all the darkness, everything I hated about myself, everything that I didn't like about myself. I internalized all of it. And it had one simple rule. If I didn't want to tear myself down anymore, if I didn't want to be depressed, if I didn't want to hate myself, if I didn't want any of these things, all I had to do was be better than myself. To spite myself, to do everything opposite of what I was doing. And this is where when I look at people and I say, what you're doing is actually helping you. Do anything else than what you're doing right now. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Be grateful to people who want to spend time with you, because for the same reason, they could literally be doing anything else.
Yep.
Be genuine with people, because there is no reason to have friendships with people that are based on lies. Be authentic, because people will respect you more. Be these things, no matter how bad it is, no matter how hard it gets, no matter how much you suffer for it. Do the things that you know and live by the ideals you have created. And that was it.
Yep.
It's that simple. And the difficulty is doing it. The answers are always simple. How you get to them is always difficult. That's how I put it. It's a lot more complex. The question is way more complex than the answer.
but I think the art of it is taking the time to sit down and find out what the questions are, like working out what the right questions are to ask. Because most people don't know. Most people are just wandering around, just going from one fuck up to the next. I know that's what I do.
Yeah, but we're human. Of course you do that. But
Yep.
Right. Well, I'm going to say getting to the end of an hour. I am going to have to sort of mosey on. But I think we've left it at a good point because now we've got a good starting point for next week, which is the journey upwards from the down point. And like the words that you say, you took yourself down to a point where you don't think the average person needs to go. These are your words. Like, not everybody needs to tear themselves down to the point that you did to build themselves up again. And I think that's a good point to start with next week when we come back to it, because that leads into like other people's journeys, because we're all going on. We're all trying to be better people at the end of the day. Some of us aren't. Some of us a lot of people are quite happy sitting around in the squalor and the mud, as you say. But there are a lot of us who do want to achieve for better and maybe get a little bit of dirt off your shoulder in the process. And I think that's what we're here for. Hopefully, anyway. I'm fumbling around in the dark, hoping that you've got like torchlight that I can share.
You all are all welcome. Like, well, the whole problem that with your analogy that I have a torchlight is, I'll definitely give you a torch. You still have to go through the dungeon.
Yeah, no, I know.
I can't go any. There's just a point. I can't go any further because, the point. I think what we should talk about next time, and a very important thing, is we need to define what it means to be a better person. Because a lot of people think a better person and a good person are the same thing.
Yeah.
I disagree 100% with that argument. I think that becoming a better person can lead you to becoming a good person. But I think being a good person is a lot harder than being a better person.
Yeah. And I think either way, it's all an internal journey that you can't, unfortunately, find anywhere else. Other than in yourself, you kind of got to do it yourself. There's, it's like as I said to you, walking along there and I'm trying to find a way around the mountain and walking into this cowboy jester. He goes, "Oh, look, there's a mountain right there." And I'm like, "What, that mountain? Oh, I didn't see it. I've been avoiding it all this time." "No, you're going to have to climb it." "Oh, all right."
Well, I think for a lot of people, and this is the biggest thing with it, if you do the thing, if you climb the mountain, if you do the things that you need to do, there is only one master here, and that is you. There is no, I think a lot of people, and I think this is why ideologies and stuff like that bring followers, why people flock to leaders and stuff like that, is it's easier to a certain degree to be a follower, to listen to somebody else, to go to somebody with.
Yeah.
And for me, I shall have no masters. I kneel to no kings. And I found my own purpose. And that's just where it all comes down to. But we have to end that here. So, because you said you had to leave.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Well, I guess we will begin signing off. Thank you guys, everyone who came in and watched the podcast. You guys have any final thoughts?
I had a whole thing going on a second ago, but it's completely gone out of my mind again now. So, but that's because it is getting late and it is nearly bedtime, and I am an old lady these days. So, the later it gets and the hotter it is, the less my brain works.
Fair enough.
On that note, I think you've got about as much coherence out of me as you're going to get.
Fair enough. All right. Well,
yep,
then we'll
I can
close it
relate
out.
to that one.
Well, thank you for coming to the Spoken Word with Raz. Morgan, say bye.
Goodbye.
Say bye, Happy.
Goodbye.
You guys all have a wonderful day.